Hello everyone and welcome back to Planet Coaster Alpine Odyssey. I don't know why I punched my hand just now for that intro, but I did nonetheless. So, today is the last kind of backstage area that we're going to be doing for, I guess, a long while. We're going to be doing 2 to 3 other full theme sections of the park before we return to backstage elements. So, in essence, this is kind of it for probably the remainder of the year at the rate we kind of go. This final little area right in between the European and Aztec section, it is a little narrow, a little bit more specialized and a little bit harder to fit just large kind of backstage elements and cargo bays. So here at the beginning, we are messing about with the kind of tiles and the pathing and the roads. Planet Coaster's pathing system has never been really ideal to begin with, and when you get to this level of trying to fit things together, it's a little bit of a nightmare. However, it is totally worth doing, and I suggest everyone kind of give it their best when they do. So, big plans in the future. I'm going to start this episode, by the way, with some announcements while we just kind of fiddle with paths. This took a little while. Number one, I'm going to need your guys' help for the new theme. The new theme is going to be the Greco-Roman theme. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more during this weekend's live stream. It is essentially going to be kind of similar to probably the Antiquity Park that I made back in, I think, Beta 2? I think that was quite a long time ago at this point, but I really enjoyed that theme set, and even back then we kind of reached the limit of Planet Coasters. So the game has come a long way since the early days, and I'm happy you guys have been there for the whole ride with me. But other than that, I think also on the stream this weekend we'll be releasing our Discord to the public. So those of you who want to come to the Discord channel and possibly hang out with me, Silent Knight, my name is Ed, are all of our sponsors and moderators for the channel. You will be able to do so, I think, starting Sunday this week. There's a few last little adjustments that I need to do before we're there, but just letting you guys know that Discord finally going to be a thing. So be excited for that. Other than that, just thanks for watching, and we'll just continue on with the speed build as per the norm. So at this point, we have the large plaza kind of laid out for the roundabout. And this upper area, I figured a roundabout kind of layout would be best, simply due to the size. We're going to be doing the same kind of roofing technique that we did with the pump station over on the last episode. We're going to be trying to mix that in a little bit just so we have some more roof variety than everything being flat. And, I'm just trying to keep this backstage area similar but also unique from the opposite side, the more European side. The more European side has plenty of room for, a large kind of semi-truck trailer cargo bay, and you got your forklifts all over the place in large open areas for parking. This backstage section is kind of the opposite. A lot of its backstage, at least kind of lore-wise with Alpine Odyssey, is kind of hidden underneath the Aztec section. So the Aztec section, that's why it's raised up so high. It's kind of sitting on top of all its storage. So the entryway is to the right there for that, and then the left, the more European side, is just kind of staff rooms and structures for the people working on that section of the park. So there's no way to really traverse the staff through here. I kind of wish there was a way to get staff to simply stay on the backside as they go through the park. We might look into that maybe a bit later on in the build process as we kind of start really getting these backstages a little bit more integral into the park design itself. In the next theme, I'll probably try and keep that in mind a little bit more, just so we can kind of make it easier for ourselves. here. Again, using the same kind of roofing technique to get that slight angle over the large shed that is going to be the one cargo bay back here. And unlike the other one, it's going to be ground level. It's not going to be raised up about 2 meters off the ground or anything like that. I wanted it to be tall enough for the semi-trailer to be backed in here if need be. And I wanted to actually open up one of the doors, just so we can get a little bit more of a dynamic positioning, because these are supposed to be deep, large cargo bays sunk into the hillside. They could have also maybe have a slight slope to them, so it goes down a little bit as well. And the trick we're going to use, just to, for visual sake, you know, I'm sure if you get down to ground level, people will nitpick a little bit here, but all I'm going to do is kind of box in kind of a dark space, right? This is kind of a mapping trick, right? A trick that you would use in, like, say, Counter-Strike. Just insert a dark area that people can't really see into. It kind of makes it look like a tunnel, and then make a vehicle kind of come part of the way out of it. And that kind of implies that it goes deeper than perhaps you can perceive. So that adds a little bit of depth, and I'm pretty happy with that. You'll also notice the concrete kind of being expanded upon up near the playground area. I do kind of miss having some trees closer to the fence to block off some of this area more, but it didn't really have the space for it. So we ended up kind of getting rid of them just for realism's sake. I don't know how realistic it is to not have any sight blockers there, but I think it's okay. You know, kids, I don't really think they care too much about seeing this kind of stuff. In Disney World, there's plenty of opportunities to see kind of backstage elements, and I don't remember a lick of it. All I cared about was getting on the Tower of Terror queue before everyone else. So I'm not overly concerned with that detail, and instead we're just going to focus on adding windows, just modern windows back here. Now, this whole section is a little bit less detailed than, you know, kind of everything else in the park, right? It's modern, it's clean. So don't expect the same kind of styling in the new theme. The new theme, we're going to return to the overabundant roof tiles that you see here in the European section and Aztec section. So overly detailing everything in every aspect of the park. We're also going to be adding some lines, though, to here, and some street markings. There's not a whole lot to mark out here just because it's a simple roundabout and loop section. The centerpiece that we built a bit ago that we're putting a white line around now just to get people to have a decent spacing around it is a upside down millstone with the 4 pieces of it sticking out again. So I'm using the bottom of it to kind of get this fancier ring, and then we are using the variant without the millstone on it to give us like a planter type effect. And we will use some trees there here in a little bit, just to kind of make it look nicer back here. I figured that this was, of course, built after the European backstage section, so it's a little bit more new. New is pretty relative. I mean, Alpine Odyssey is about 200 years old now, but these lines are a little bit more yellow, not because I forgot what yellow I used. That could not be the reason at all, but just because it's newer. That's what my story is, and I'm sticking to it at this point. It has some interesting shapes. I'm trying to get the shapes of these gridded off areas angular, sharp, with plenty of ins and outs just to keep it dynamic looking. That's a good way to get detail without really doing much work, though it takes a little bit of effort to kind of get used to designing things like that. There is a sidewalk on the right side, left side of the path. We add the tree and little shrub elements to the center roundabout area. And the reason I'm using a tree here, especially this one, is that we've never used this tree in this park. There's a lot of things we haven't used in this park, and I want to occasionally use them. It makes them look a little bit more unique when you do that. And this kind of red colored kind of leaf tree is quite different than everything else, and it's really eye-catching, and it brings this area to the forefront a little bit while you're kind of looking up from above. and just adds that extra detail. We're going to add large loading bay signs, unlike the other ones, which are a little bit smaller. These ones, I just wanted bigger signage, just so we can see it from farther away as well. We're going to add a staff door to the right way, and another one on the other side, just so it looks like you can actually walk through this building. Finishing up the lines a little bit here, just making sure these get marqueed out as best as possible. I'm not really that comfortable making these marquee areas because, frankly, I don't know if there's any rules to follow with these. I'm kind of just winging it, basically the same way that I do with City Skylines. I'm like, well, would I want people to park here? No. Okay. Would I want people to walk in this area? Yes. So, okay, let's mark that off then. Are we going to store stuff in this area? Yes. Okay, so we'll mark that off as well. That's kind of the only thing I can come up with to get these laid out in some sort of universal fashion. I hope it's right. You guys can let me know in the comments down below. Your guys' feedback, of course, is really necessary for Alpine Odyssey to succeed and to keep kind of me interested in learning with you guys as well. At this point, it's kind of the detailing of the structures. These structures are going to follow kind of the same detailing motif as the other backstage areas and modern buildings throughout Alpine Odyssey. So we're going to be keeping the kind of whitewashed metallic walls in this area. The other backstage area is the smooth stone. This is actually the metallic ones. And we're going to just frame up these structures with kind of these iron support beams going across the top and corners of all of these. And they kind of provide that industrial look without being too kind of in your face, right? Because if you go to a lot of warehouses, they're kind of pretty much whitewashed areas, smooth walls, either out of just all cinder block or all like metal siding. I'm kind of going for more of the metal siding look in this case. We're also going to throw in some vehicles, so we have a flatbed box truck there. We got 2 utility vehicles, 1 gardening truck and a normal utility vehicle. We have, of course, the Alpine Odyssey box truck in the loading bay, and then our forklift. We're going to add some awnings over some of these windows, just the horizontal windows, not the vertical ones, just so there's some differentiation there, though the vertical ones could probably still use some now that I'm thinking about it. But hey, you know, this is stuff that we can do in the live stream as well. I'd much rather cover as much area as I can in these episodes, just so that we can get large swaths done, and then maybe during live streams on Sundays, go back in, fill in some details that might not make it into an episode, and you know, your guys' instant feedback kind of assists with that as well. More of this kind of blue iron trim, and this is the same color blue that we used in all the bus stations as well. So there is that kind of constant theme going through there. We did use some of that metal siding for some of these roof elements, just to keep them a little bit more unique from possibly the main building elements. These are more like for covering walkways to keep people out of the rain as they kind of go to staff rooms and from staff rooms. It's just those little details that I think make these areas believable, right? Because you want your people to be comfortable where they work. You want them to be able to walk around in all kinds of weather, even though Alpine Odyssey and Planet Coaster in general doesn't have a weather system. Now, on the last stream, you guys also suggested that we should darken some of these roofing pieces, and I really like that idea. The other side, we didn't do it, but on this side, I am going to do it. Every few different kind of roof sections, you'll see that I darkened it to be more of a black, and that is a suggestion that I had last stream, that maybe we should tar the rooftops, right, to protect them from the elements. So I like that suggestion. It also contrasts with the walls really well, and any of the details that we put on the roofing will contrast again. So it just helps the whole whitewash feeling from looking too repetitive, which it can when you do things like this over and over, such as we have been so far. I didn't want it all to be the metallic roofing though. So one side is metallic, kind of black roofing. The other side is the smooth stone black roofing. I wanted to see if there was maybe a texture difference, the way they reflect light, and see if that kind of changes things at all for us, and maybe can maybe one just look better than the other one. I don't know. Test things out. It doesn't have to work. You might not even need a reason for it. Just put some stuff down, build and plan a coaster, and have a good time. We have some fencing going up on the roof. We have some fencing going around the greenery. We get basically these small fences are for kind of blocking ugly elements that are in the backstage. Usually planters and usually air conditioning units, right? Because we do have an air conditioning unit tile set that we made in a live stream. And I think this is the first episode where we actually get to use it in a speed build kind of setting. So we simply lay down these AC units. They're not probably the most accurate AC units, right? They don't have the framework. They're not off the roof. Their vents aren't quite probably right, and they're a little small on the small side. But we do use them. It comes with the game. I think it keeps the simplistic art style consistent in Alpine Odyssey. And now we're just using the tile set that we made for these vents and duct work going across the rooftops. And you'll notice this in the other backstage areas as well. And these are just simple art shapes. Long rectangular sections with square ribbings to just make it look like they are being supported in different ways and fashions. So we'll finish off this roof here, and I'll probably do the other ones off camera just so you guys can see how it's done, but not sit through it all. These are kind of time-consuming little things to do in Planet Coaster, but they really worth it. It really takes your build up a notch when it comes to detailing and can really add detail to some plain areas. So with that, let's take a look at it in real time, and you guys can give me your awesome feedback. Alright, so here we are watching some staff members there in the distance. Just go ahead and walk into some of these buildings that we've been making here today. And that's really why I enjoy these backstages. It encourages movement in areas of the park that you wouldn't have necessarily otherwise. And this is kind of why I like the new staff rooms that they've added as well. It's kind of getting a... Why is that building on fire? There's probably a tiki torch guy in one of them. Anyways, sorry, distracted by that little notion there. You'll see that they'll get on the roadways a little bit. I really wish they kind of stayed on this path the whole way down because I guess I need to connect these up. Or else they won't do that. So hopefully we can kind of borrow them from walking the road too much. But it gets movement going in through some of these areas and just makes it look like it's an actual usable space. So that's what the staff rooms do. I'm sure the hotels kind of do the same thing, and we will be building one of those eventually in Alpine Odyssey. But yeah, here's our little roundabout, supply depot, and station, right? So we have some exposed conduits. We have, pallet, a little bit of a trash can, maybe just sitting out here to push storage elements around. Maybe someone parked their car here, maybe they run into the office for something real quick, but hopefully they don't stay there too long. Might get towed. We get a kind of gardening truck here at the double doors. This is how vehicles, by the way, get into our park. That is something I considered when I was building the European section. How do service vehicles enter here? And this double door does go over here, and it is wide enough for a vehicle to get around and down onto the main street and then over. So we did account for that. We're gonna have to add probably another one in the Greek section just so we have some more coverage. But that is a thing that is pretty much working for us, which is good. There's a little bit of a flatbed pulled up to the side as well. Maybe they're just finished dropping off some of those pallets and pipes. Walkway to more staff rooms. Those people were zombified, it seems. We get a little bit of shrubs off here to the left and the right, just off to the sidewalk, right? You don't need to fill every little thing with a building. Have some space for greenery. Have some space to kind of rest your eyes before you get overwhelmed by the overly bright yellow lines and marquees over here. The ductwork looking really good, kind of going across these building tops, adding that little bit of depth that we need. I'm not a big fan of square buildings, but modern is modern. You know, it's going to be very industrial, utilitarian looking. Awnings going across, which look good. Some of them, you know, no windows on some walls, just to break up the surface. Windows on upper areas, maybe for security reasons. We got our tree here in the middle, which I absolutely love. It just adds that little pop of color in such a sterile kind of environment back here. Our loading bays 3 and 4, because the ones on the other side are 1 and 2. We have our forklift, some boxes that are possibly getting moved in and around the area. The forklift, by the way, can also take supplies in through that double door. And other than that, that is this episode, right? We have sidewalks. We got all the stuff required. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with some final thoughts. The backstage area, I think, is one of my favorite things that I've worked on in a little while. It's been no surprise that Alpine Odyssey there for about 5 months was a little rough for me mentally to probably work on, and this was a much needed break. But as we move into the new section, hopefully that is another kind of break in essence. And something new to build is always more interesting than building the same structure over and over. So this is it for the backstage area. If you guys enjoyed this, go ahead and leave a like. Leave a comment down below if anything's missing, any tips and suggestions, especially for the new theme coming up. Go ahead and subscribe for more creative goodness such as this. It really helps out the channel. Hit that bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video.